This has been on my mind for such a while now, and I want you to stick around till the end so I can ask you the question that this video is all about, and it's, should we recast Power Ranger actors with new, or should we just let them be? Let's discuss this. Now, there are two factors when it comes to this. One, the actors don't want to come back. They've done their time, they've finished, they don't want to be Power Rangers anymore. They want to move on to other projects, or some of them pass away and we'll never be able to see them ever again. Now, if you'd asked me years ago, should we recast the actors, I would have gone, no, they are an important part, they are the identity of the actual Power Ranger themselves, and no, we shouldn't do this at all, and we should keep them as they are. And as time has gone on, where we have lost Rangers and we hear that actors don't want to come back to the franchise, it got me thinking about this, and I really wanted to kind of talk more about it. So, what would be the most easiest way? I think transferring the powers to someone else and giving an explanation and saying, hey, my powers are transferred from X, Y, and Z. I'm the brand new Ranger and I am here to help you to kind of combat whatever I need to do. So let's do it. And then they morph and we see a brand new morph sequence with them being the Ranger, and bam, there we go. I think it's pretty cool. You write an interesting storyline. How do they come back? Why did they give the powers? You could say, oh, this Ranger isn't able to come on, so they gave me the power, that they entrusted me with it. Or you could go down the simple route of, hey, my father, my mother, they wanted to give me their powers, or I stole my powers and here I am. One of the reasons for this topic of this video is Min. She was obviously brought in to replace her mother Trini as a Power Ranger, because obviously Twee was never able to reprise the role of the Yellow Ranger, and obviously Karen probably doesn't want to do it anymore. Like, she's probably happy being actually on set and lending her voice to the character, but it now means that she doesn't have to come back. She can take her role with the SPA and then that's it, or she can just come back at random times to give pep talks or whatever she wants to do. It's a very simple thing when you look at it, and yeah, I think it worked really, really well. I just hope that Min isn't just a one and done character. We did see it at the very end of Cosmic Fury, but again, we saw her mainly in Once and Always, which was a good special to kind of introduce her. But now, since Power Rangers looks like it's not coming back for any time soon until the reboot, that was probably the only time that we'll see her unmorphed. Obviously, with Min taking the mantle of the saber-toothed tiger, we knew exactly what was going to happen. But let's take, for example, Twee is still around, but she doesn't want to come back and be a Power Ranger. Would everyone be okay with someone taking over that mantle? Now, at the time, they could have recast Trini. They could have said, hey, here she is. She still stepped in. But I think the fandom wouldn't have liked it because they want to keep the memory alive of Twee, and I think that's absolutely fine. At any point they could have said, actually no, let's bring in another actress to kind of take over the role. Now, maybe if this was done at the very beginning of Power Rangers after Twee left and then they wanted to kind of bring someone in, they could have, and then done the whole thing of, oh, a spell changed them or such and such, whichever way that they wanted to kind of twist it. And then I think people would have probably been okay with it, but now I think that the fandom would have a riot and say, no, don't let this legacy character be touched in any sort of way. But obviously we know what happens with Twee and her fate in Once and Always. Let's talk about having some brand new actors come in. Would the fandom be okay with this? Would the fandom accept it? Or would it go to the point of, we can't recast this character? How dare they even think about it? They've ruined my childhood. Dear God, I absolutely hate you ruined my childhood when it can't do it. It literally can't. But when you think about having someone take over that mantle, that someone doesn't want to come back, or they can't be bothered, or they've just completely moved on from the show, it makes more sense in my eyes. I personally would think it's absolutely fantastic because we see the character carry on. We see the character thrive and change and do something different, compared to we never see that character ever again, because there are two main factors. One, we want to see the character, and two, we want to see the Ranger kicking ass, fighting in the suit, defeating evil and carrying things on. Now, effectively, you could do two things: keep them in costume, like say Wes running in morphed already, and then just have Jason Font just come in and voice stuff, and then that's it, or use past voice clips to do the hi-yahs and all that. So I feel like you could kind of go down that way, but I would much prefer to see a fresh face take on that role, regardless of who they are. Now, with the actors not being able to come back, I feel like some of the fandom would be okay with who comes in and takes over. There are some Rangers that I think that the fandom would absolutely say no to, but I feel like over time, some people in the fandom would accept it and go, do you know what? I can understand this. This is the only way of doing it. And unfortunately, that's the only way we can continue this franchise if they were to bring in more Rangers. Now, I don't know if you're like me and you've seen this all over the internet of people doing fan castings. This is a huge thing that people go like, oh, I can re-envision this. I want to see this person. And at first I was like, no, I don't want to see this. But now I'm more open to be like, do you know what? Yeah, I kind of see it. Now, one of my main questions is if they recast Tommy, Wes, Nick, any of these characters, would you be okay with it, or would you rather they stay there? Now, Tommy is always going to be an interesting one because we know his fate. We've seen it in Zio, where he is an old man, he's married to Catherine, and they obviously have JJ, and then they see JJ's son. So we know what happens with Tommy, but would people be okay with Tommy being recast up to a point where we know the Zio ending is going to happen? Or do they retcon it and say, well, that never happened? What would you think about that? Would you be okay with it? Let me know down below in the comments, but I'm not finished yet. Now, it's not uncommon for companies to do this, for studios to do it in their own way. We're going to see this in the reboot when it happens, but you've had people like Ruby Rose in Batwoman that actually got recast because either she was too hard to work with, she had an accident, she didn't want to do it. I don't know which one it is, it could be anyone. But that happened. Then I'm gonna have to read this one. But then you have other people like Rowan Blanchard, who played Jackie Graney in The Goldbergs. I hope I got that right. And Alexis G. Zal. You had also Lacey Chabert, who played Meg in Family Guy, who was then later replaced with Melina Kunis, which again, you would never really have been able to notice the voice change in that one. Why I chose those people, I have no idea. But if I was to list off a load more people, we'd be here for a lot longer, and we're coming close to the end of the video. So I just wanted to mention that at least we've had a few people. Now, me personally, would I be against this or for this? And I generally think that I would be for this to some degree. Legacy characters like JDF, I don't think should be replaced. I just think that their character should be literally be retired, but we know exactly what his fate is at the end of Zio. If we hadn't have seen that, I would have been all for recasting JDF, because I know people love the character of Tommy, even though he is literally linked with JDF. So again, I would be okay with recasting Tommy. I don't know how half the fandom or the entire fandom should be, but I think just literally retiring his character would be the best option, not unless you're passing his powers down to JJ or another child that he's had in that meantime, up to whoever wants to write it. One of the big things is with the reboot of Power Rangers coming up very, very soon, or in a couple of years' time, we know that this entire whole arc is going to be focused around Tommy. We know that Jonathan Entwistle posted on his Instagram that they were going to focus around Tommy. Does this mean that they will recast or give the powers to someone else? Who knows? We'll find out when it actually gets released. I generally wanted to know your thoughts. This has been a topic that I think hasn't really been talked about that much, and I feel like it's quite important. And I feel like it's quite important because obviously some actors don't want to come back, so passing on their powers would be fine, or just recasting the actor. I know it would be kind of weird at first, but I generally think over time people would accept it. And Power Rangers has never really done that whole recasting that that we've seen on screen or anything like that. But I wanted to get your thoughts. What do you think about this? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you very much for listening and watching. If you want to help out and join the channel, then the channel memberships and the Patreon are there to help support the channel. Thank you very much for listening and watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. I want to say a big thank you to all my Patreon supporters, and I wanted to shout out Kimono Cat, Kira Stanada. Your help goes a long way to help support the channel, and if you want to help support the channel, the links to my Patreon and channel memberships are listed below in the description.
あらあら、チャンネルをサポートしてくれてありがとうございます。チャンネル登録、高評価お願いします。以下のリンクから商品を入手することができます。